Okay, yesterday I showed you my halfway constructed Vex drag racer for Task 2, the Vex drag race. This is coming after the spinning sign. I know some of you are still trying to button things up on the spinning sign, but let's try and move along with this project. Now, one thing that I did try and identify yesterday is there's three choices in drivetrains that you can use. You can use a chain and sprocket, like in my example here. You can do a gear train where the gears are meshed together, which may be a more responsive drivetrain, because I'll show you some concerns that I have with my chain drivetrain. And then you could also do direct drive right off the motors, which is going to have the best acceleration. But in regards to gear ratios, it's strictly 1-to-1. You're not going to be increasing speed or torque in either manner. So I'll show you what I did to finish this up. I'll talk about some concerns that I have before I test this, and then tomorrow I'll show you how it turns out in a program. So the last time we were together on this, I had started a chain drive. I was concerned about my spacing, so as you can see, I went with the longer drive shaft, and I did not trim it at all. I'm just going to leave it like this. I'm not concerned about how wide it is. I want to preserve the integrity of the drive shafts, so I'm okay with it sticking out the sides a little bit. I just have to watch when I run it in a program that I'm giving myself enough room. So I do have it spaced evenly from left to right. So as you can see, I have quite a few of these block spacers in the back here. Actually, I think I have 4 of them stacked together. The reason I have a couple out here, I shared this with you last time, is I was trying to keep my alignment with this chain drive. It's important to keep the sprockets aligned. So I used 2 different sizes spacers, and I used some washers for precision. So I had this evenly spaced. I did the same thing with the front. You can see my sprockets are a little closer together. The reason it's kind of this weird design here is, if you remember earlier when I was developing my chassis, I had to have my motors facing opposite directions. So this is how it would look underneath. So one motor is facing out to the left, one motor is facing out to the right. Now, I mentioned some concerns I have. See how loose this chain is? If I take out one chain link, then it's going to be too tight. So I am concerned about this type of drivetrain. I might try to move my axle up to this front hole here, or this middle hole, so I can change my tension a little bit by moving my drive shaft up. So I may be looking at doing that, because I feel this is going to be too loose and I can't adjust it with just the chain link. This one is the same way, and so I'm not sure how I'm really going to be able to fix that other than moving things back one hole. I want to make sure that it's going to be responsive when it accelerates, or I'm going to lose time and I'm not going to fulfill my objective of getting my CO2 or my Vex dragster to go 20 feet as quickly as possible. Now, some other things that I wanted to point out. I put this metal piece in here just as a basket to house my battery. That way I can quickly change my battery. You know, they're going to drain. I have to put them back on the chargers. I want to be able to quickly change it, but I don't want it to fall off and get hung up in my chain drive. And so this is just a support. Then I don't have to worry about it falling off there. Instead of using a push button, I am using a trigger switch. I think that's going to be easier to just hit this trigger switch from behind and have the car take off than to push a button. But you can use either one. The trigger switches are kind of fragile, so I'm kind of concerned about how well they're taken care of. As I mentioned before, I have my motors set up in motor ports 1 and 10. I did use the retainer clips. On most of the Cortexes, we popped these out and left them out. But I decided that since I'm handling this quite a bit, that I would leave these retainer clips in. If you want to use these, some of the newer Cortexes still have them in them, or I've thrown the extra ones in the bins where we keep the motors. I believe it's the blue tub that's on the left right now. That might change as I teach different classes. And so I'm going to pop that back in there. I did the same thing for my trigger switch. I'm going to treat my trigger switch when I program this as a push button. You'll see that the retainer clip for the sensors is longer, but I'm going to use these because these plugs come undone easily. You don't have to use them, but just a suggestion, if you do, you don't have to worry about your cords getting pulled out. You see, once I have that retainer clip in there, those are snugged in there pretty good. I also need to watch my cords. I've wrapped one of my cords around this bracket that I put in to hold my battery. Another thing you could think of doing is maybe getting a twisty. A lot of these switches come with the twisties on them. If you see a twisty, you could use that to hold your cords up. You want to be running the course and then have it stop because you got hung up on a cord. So I could stick a twisty through here. It's kind of like a twisty on a sack that you'd have on a bread sack. And then you could use that to hold your cords in place. And then when you go to disassemble, put things away or use them for the next project, they're easy to remove. So some things to think about there. Don't forget your collars on the outside of your drive shafts. I got those on my drive shafts. I also have them on my sprockets. Don't forget your bearings on your metal hardware so that your drive shafts move more smoothly. That way you can be assured that you're traversing that 20 feet as quickly as possible because the integrity, the precision of your vehicle is finer and it should work more smoothly. But like I said, I'm concerned about the slop that I have in this chain drive. I'm going to be looking at ways to remedy that. If I really struggle with getting this chain drive to work, then I might switch to a gear train instead. So just some things to think about as you're wrapping up the construction on this. Like I said before, I'm hoping that you have this done in the next couple of class periods so that we can test this and move on to the next activity. So, until next time, good luck.